When I teach ethical topics, I point out to my students that religious freedom is the mother of all civil liberties. In these days of ecumenism and interfaith dialogue, we often underestimate the magnitude of the cultural and political shift the modern right to practice a religion of one's own choice or not to practice a religion at all brought about. When the Pilgrim Fathers came to America to secure religious freedom, it was freedom for themselves, but not for others. Being a Catholic in the 17th century Commonwealth of Massachusetts was a capital crime. Quakers were executed for their beliefs and their children sold into slavery. Now, the Puritan understanding of religious freedom was typical of its day. It was only with the emergence of the Enlightenment in the later 17th century that a broader modern concept of religious freedom gained traction. There was considerable resistance to this newer view of religious freedom because, in these days before ecumenism and interfaith dialogue, it meant tolerating beliefs and ideas that many sincerely believed spread error. Religious freedom, in the eyes of its critics, allowed individuals to pervert themselves and to pervert others, and inevitably would harm society. Religious freedom gained ground not in an environment of religious tolerance, but because enough people in societies, such as the early American Republic, embraced the idea that individuals had the right to choose their own religious beliefs, even those that they believed superstitious, barbaric, foolish, or perverse. In short, Americans learned to live in a society alongside those with whom they strongly disagreed and whom they disliked, often intensely. The right to religious freedom is the foundation for a right of conscience and of what in American constitutional terms has often been denoted as the right to privacy. I prefer the term a realm of individual freedom in which one chooses to pursue one's view of the moral good as long as it does not encroach on the similar freedom of others. I would stress that complementary to this realm of individual freedom is the obligation of every citizen to behave in the public realm in ways that do not harm others by discrimination. I am disturbed by moves on the right to restrict and roll back the freedom of conscience, which has in recent decades come to include women's reproductive rights and the rights of LGBTQ persons to be treated equally under the law, including access to marriage. Ironically, this attack of freedom of conscience is being undertaken in the name of religious freedom. And yet, this claim of conservative freedoms that their religious freedom is under attack does have historical precedent in earlier notions that religious freedom only belonged to those who held true religious belief, and therefore only they were capable of living a truly moral life. This rhetoric of religious freedom under threat has powerful allies among the conservative justices of the Supreme Court. In early October, Clarence Thomas and Samuel A. Alito Jr. gave a chilling preview of what a more conservative Supreme Court might try to do. They called into question the 2015 Supreme Court decision recognizing same-sex marriage. This, Thomas and Alito argued, had harmed religious freedom. How had this harm occurred, according to the justices? As a result of this decision, they claim, I quote, parties have continually attempted to label people of goodwill as bigots, merely for refusing to alter their religious beliefs in the wake of prevailing orthodoxy, end quotes. There are a lot of problems with this statement. First of all, conservative Christians are still at liberty to believe that homosexuality is a grave sin and those who practice it will go to hell. What conservative Christians have to learn to live with is that their view is no longer the prevailing orthodoxy. They can no longer expect that homosexuality will be criminalized and LGBTQ people will be denied equal treatment under the law. They will also be expected to not to discriminate against LGBTQ people in the secular public realm. This brings me to the discussion of the June 2018 Supreme Court decision in favor of a Christian baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a gay couple because gay marriage conflicted with his religious beliefs. It is important to remember that the decision written by Justice Kennedy was very narrow in focus. It hinged on remarks hostile to religion that had been voiced by members of Colorado's Civil Rights Commission. I think the loss of this case should be a warning to progressives. All of us, not just conservative Christians, need to learn to live in a society alongside those with whom we strongly disagree and may also intensely dislike. Nonetheless, I believe that this Supreme Court decision was wrong. As Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote at the time, there was no reason to think that people seeing a wedding cake made by the Christian baker would see it as a reflection of his views on same-sex marriage. I would be reluctant to consider the opponents of LGBTQ rights as what Thomas and Alita call people of goodwill. But I'm aware that that reflects my own religious and moral beliefs. However, I recognize that those who reject LGBTQ rights, whether that be for religious conviction or otherwise, are moral agents. Moral agents are entitled to hold whatever views they choose within the individual realm of freedom. I would stress this also against a left-wing cancel culture. If we want tolerance from those who would not consider us people of goodwill, then we must also be tolerant of those whom we consider bigots. Conservative Christians have the right to live their lives according to their beliefs, but their condemnation of abortion and gay marriage should not restrict my reproductive rights or choice of a marriage partner.